"I want to see my balance," said the old black cowgirl, her voice steady. The bank's CEO laughed right in her face, but his laughter choked in his throat the moment he saw the number she slid across the marble counter. He thought she was a lost, confused old woman. He was about to discover she had the power to shatter his entire world. "Security, please show this woman the door," CEO Alistair Sterling ordered, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is a place for serious business." Joanna Ma Washington didn't flinch. She just held his gaze, her eyes like chips of obsidian, and said calmly, "Son, I suggest you look at this number before you make the costliest mistake of your life." The security guard, a large man named Frank, took a step forward but paused. He saw a lifetime of strength in her posture that Sterling, blinded by arrogance, completely missed. This story is a stunning example of what happens when prejudice meets power. If you believe no one should be judged by their appearance, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the epic conclusion, and comment below with your city and the word dignity. The main lobby of Sterling Financial was a monument to New York City wealth. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, glinting off polished marble floors and brass fixtures. Men in bespoke suits and women in designer heels moved with an air of urgent importance. Into this temple of capital walked Ma Washington. At 75, her hands were gnarled and calloused from decades of mending fences and working the land on her ranch in rural Alabama. She wore clean but heavily worn denim overalls, a simple plaid shirt, and boots that still carried a faint trace of red southern dust. She was a ghost from another world, and everyone in the lobby knew it. They stared, whispered, and smirked. The problem began when she approached the main teller. "I need to see the man in charge," Ma stated, not asked. Her directness unnerved the young teller, who quickly summoned a floor manager. The manager, a man named Peterson, tried to dismiss her. "All our private bankers are busy, ma'am. Perhaps you can make an appointment." "I don't need a banker. I need the man whose name is on the building," Ma replied, her voice unwavering. The confrontation drew the attention of Alistair Sterling himself, who emerged from his corner office with an irritated scowl. "What is this?" he boomed, his eyes scanning Ma with open disgust. "This isn't a homeless shelter. If you're looking for a handout, you've come to the wrong place." His words, loud and cruel, were meant to humiliate her into leaving. But Ma Washington hadn't come this far to be turned away. The piece of paper she held wasn't just a request, it was a summons. The account number written on it was a key to a financial empire built in silence and shadow, a fortune so vast it was intertwined with the very foundations of Sterling's bank. He thought he was looking at poverty. He was actually looking at his new boss. Sterling saw a frail old woman who had wandered off the street. What he failed to see was a predator who had just walked into his den. What secret was she about to unleash that could bring a Wall Street titan to his knees? Sterling let out a short, barking laugh. It was a sound of pure mockery, meant to sting. "You want me to look at a number? Security, I gave you an order. Now." He turned his back on her, a final dismissive gesture. He considered the matter closed. But Frank, the security guard, didn't move. He was looking at Ma Washington's eyes. There was no desperation in them, no anger, just a profound, unshakable certainty. He had seen that look once before, on a detective who was about to cuff a crime boss who thought he was untouchable. Frank stayed put. "The number, Mr. Sterling," Ma said, her voice cutting through the lobby's hushed whispers. "You're making my feet tired." Infuriated by the insubordination and the public spectacle, Sterling spun around. He snatched the folded, worn piece of paper from her hand. "Fine. You want your moment? You've got it." He stormed over to the nearest teller station, shoving the young woman aside. "You see this? This is what delusion looks like. Now watch." His fingers, accustomed to signing multi-million-dollar deals, angrily punched the long string of digits into the system. He was performing for the lobby, for his employees. He was re-establishing his dominance. He hit enter with a flourish. For a second, nothing happened. The system processed. Then the screen refreshed. Sterling was about to turn away with a triumphant sneer, but the teller's sharp intake of breath stopped him. He glanced at her, then back at the screen. The familiar customer interface was gone. In its place was a stark black screen with gold lettering. It was a legacy access portal, something Sterling had only seen in training manuals. A system reserved for the bank's oldest, most foundational accounts. His arrogance evaporated, replaced by a cold knot of confusion in his stomach. The account name wasn't Joanna Washington, it read Washington Legacy Trust, and below it the name of the primary trustee, Jedediah Washington. Sterling's blood ran cold. Every executive knew the name. Jedediah Washington was a ghost in the bank's history. A black man, a former slave, who was rumored to have been a silent partner to the original Sterling founder over a century ago. The official story was that he was bought out for a pittance. The unofficial story, the one whispered in the boardroom after too much whiskey, was that he was cheated, his contributions erased from history. The account was supposed to have been dissolved, its assets absorbed by the Sterling family generations ago. But there it was, active, untouched. "What is the meaning of this?" Sterling whispered, the words catching in his throat. He clicked on the View Balance button. The number that appeared on the screen didn't seem real. It had too many commas. It wasn't just millions. It was a figure so colossal that it represented a significant percentage of the bank's entire liquid capital. It was a controlling interest. The lobby had gone dead silent. Everyone was watching him. They saw the color drain from his face. They saw his hand, the one that had snatched the paper so arrogantly, begin to tremble. He looked from the impossible number on the screen to the old woman in dusty overalls. Ma Washington hadn't moved. She just stood there, her hands clasped calmly in front of her. She looked him right in the eye, and for the first time, Sterling didn't see a poor, lost woman. He saw the owner. "That account," Sterling stammered, his voice barely audible. That's not possible. It was liquidated in 1922. Ma Washington gave a slow, deliberate smile. It didn't reach her eyes. "Son," she said, her voice now holding a clear edge of iron. "Some debts just take a little longer to collect. Now I believe I asked to see my balance." The air in the lobby was thick enough to choke on. Sterling's mind raced, cycling through denial, rage, and a primal fear he hadn't felt since he was a child. This had to be a trick, a sophisticated hack, a fraud. His entire identity was built on the foundation of his family's name and fortune, and this woman was claiming the foundation was not his. He slammed his hand on the counter, trying to project an authority he no longer felt. "This is a system error, a ghost in the machine." He turned away from the screen, refusing to look at the impossible number again. He pointed a trembling finger at Ma Washington. "And you are a party to fraud. I don't know how you got this account number, but you will spend the rest of your miserable life in a federal prison." His threat hung in the air, but it was hollow. Everyone in the lobby could see the sweat beading on his forehead. They could see the panic in his eyes. Ma Washington simply shook her head, a look of pity on her face. "Threats, son? Is that all you Sterlings have left?" She reached into the inside pocket of her overalls and pulled out a long, leather-wrapped folio tied with a faded cord. It looked ancient. She placed it on the marble counter with a soft thud that echoed in the silence. "My grandfather, Jedediah, wasn't just your great-grandfather's partner," she said, her voice clear and strong, carrying across the lobby. "He was the architect. He had the vision. Your family had the name. He knew that one day your kind would try to erase him, so he prepared." She slowly unwrapped the cord. Inside was a thick document, its pages yellowed with age but perfectly preserved. The ink was a deep, dark black, written in elegant, old-fashioned cursive. At the top, it read, The Washington Sterling Perpetual Trust Agreement. This document outlines the terms, Ma continued, her gaze fixed on Sterling. It stipulates that the Washington share of all profits be reinvested, untouched, compounding for 100 years. It also stipulates that the trust could only be accessed by a direct blood descendant, in person, upon providing the account number and a second, private key, a phrase known only to my family. She leaned forward slightly. The liquidation in 1922? That was a lie your family told themselves, and the world. All they did was close a decoy account. They couldn't touch the real one. They never had the key. Sterling stared at the document, at the two signatures at the bottom. One was his great-grandfather's, instantly recognizable. The other was a bold, proud signature, Jedediah Washington. It was real. This was happening. His corporate instincts finally kicked in, overriding the panic. He couldn't fight this here. He had to contain it, isolate her, get her away from the prying eyes of his employees and clients. "My office," he snapped, his voice a harsh rasp. "Now! We will discuss this discrepancy in private." He turned and strode towards the elevators, expecting her to follow like a scolded employee. But Ma Washington didn't move. "I'm not done," she said calmly. Every head turned back to her. Sterling froze, his back still to her. "We'll go to your office, but he," she said, pointing a calloused finger at Frank, the security guard, "is coming with us, as a witness. And he," she pointed to the terrified floor manager, Peterson, "will bring us coffee. 2 creams, 1 sugar for me." It was a staggering display of power. She wasn't just a guest, she was giving orders. Sterling slowly turned around, his face a mask of pure fury and utter defeat. He couldn't refuse. Not now. He gave a curt, jerky nod. The walk to his office was the longest of Alistair Sterling's life. The silent stairs followed them. The only sound was the soft click of his Italian leather shoes and the steady, rhythmic scuff of Ma Washington's dusty work boots on his polished marble floor. It was the sound of a world being turned upside down. Sterling's office was on the top floor, a corner suite with panoramic views of the city. It was a cold, minimalist space decorated with expensive abstract art and chrome furniture. It was designed to intimidate. Ma Washington walked in, looked at the sprawling cityscape for a moment, and then took a seat in one of the plush leather chairs opposite Sterling's massive desk without being invited. Frank stood by the door, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. The moment the heavy oak door clicked shut, Sterling's composure shattered. The mask of the CEO fell away, revealing a cornered, desperate man. He jabbed a button on his intercom. "Get me legal. Get me Arthur Vance on the line right now." "Code red." "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Ma said quietly. Sterling whirled on her. "You don't give orders in my office." "Your name is on the sign, son. My family's money built the walls," she replied, her voice as hard as granite. "You call your lawyer, and this becomes a public fight, a fight that will crash your stock price before the market even opens tomorrow. You think your board will appreciate that?" She paused, letting the threat sink in. "Besides, I brought my own." From the same pocket she had produced the folio, she pulled out a simple business card and slid it across the vast desk. It read, "Caleb Hayes, Esker, Hayes, Carter and Associates." Sterling stared at the name. Hayes, Carter and Associates was one of the most ruthless corporate litigation firms in the country. They didn't come cheap. The idea that this woman had them on retainer was so absurd, it looped back around to being terrifyingly real. The pieces were clicking into place. This wasn't a random act. This was a planned, coordinated assault. A nervous knock at the door preceded Peterson, the manager, who entered carrying a silver tray with a single cup of coffee. His hands were shaking so badly the cup rattled in its saucer. He avoided looking at Sterling and placed the tray carefully on the edge of the desk near Ma. "Thank you, young man," Ma said kindly. Peterson practically fled the room. She took a slow sip of the coffee. her eyes never leaving Sterling's. The silence stretched, amplifying the tension. Sterling was pacing now, a caged animal in his own zoo. "What do you want?" he finally spat out. "Money? Is that it? Name your price. We'll make this go away. A settlement, a generous one." Ma Washington set the cup down. "This ain't about a settlement. This is about a correction. 100 years of lies is a heavy weight, Mr. Sterling, and it's time to balance the books, all of them." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "For instance, I've been reading your last 3 quarterly reports. Very impressive growth, almost unbelievable. I wonder what a full, independent audit of this bank's loan portfolios and investment vehicles would find. An audit ordered by, say, a newly discovered majority shareholder." Sterling stopped pacing. He went pale. It was a direct hit. He had been playing fast and loose for years, hiding bad investments and inflating assets to keep the board and shareholders happy. An audit would not just cost him his job, it would lead to an SEC investigation. It would lead to prison. She knew. Somehow, this woman from a ranch in Alabama knew exactly where the bodies were buried. "My grandfather's agreement has a clause," Ma continued, pressing her advantage. "Clause 12B. It states that in the event of gross mismanagement or potential fraud by the Sterling leadership, the Washington trustee can call an immediate emergency vote of the board to assume temporary operational control." She stood up, her small frame seeming to fill the entire opulent office. "So here's my first order of business," she said, her voice ringing with the authority of absolute power. "You will call your board. You will tell them to be here in 1 hour. And you will introduce me as their new boss." Sterling's world had collapsed. The 4 walls of his office, once a symbol of his power, now felt like a prison cell. He was a king in a kingdom that was no longer his. For a long moment, he just stared at Ma Washington, his mind a whirlwind of pure, impotent rage. He saw his future unraveling, the disgrace, the investigations, the end of the Sterling dynasty. But cornered animals are the most dangerous. A flicker of defiance sparked in his eyes. He wouldn't go down without a fight. He would call the board, yes, but he would frame this his way. He would paint her as a lunatic, a grifter with a forged document, and rally his allies. They would crush her. He snatched the phone from his desk, his hand shaking. "Get me every member of the board," he snarled at his assistant through the speaker. "Emergency meeting, my office, 1 hour, no excuses." He slammed the phone down. "They're coming," he said to Ma, his voice a low growl. "And they will laugh you out of this building." Ma Washington simply nodded and went back to her coffee. The next hour was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Sterling paced relentlessly, making a series of hushed, frantic calls on his cell phone. He was pleading, whispering, trying to shore up his defenses. "It's a shakedown, Marcus, a complete fabrication. We need to stand united on this." His desperation was a palpable stench in the air-conditioned room. Ma, in stark contrast, sat perfectly still. She finished her coffee, placed the cup neatly back on the tray, and then made one call. Her tone was warm and calm. "Hey, baby, it's your grandma." "No, everything's fine here. Just handling some business. You check on Bluebell for me. Make sure she got her oats. I love you too." She hung up and folded her hands in her lap, her serenity a weapon that chipped away at Sterling's sanity more effectively than any threat. Frank remained by the door, a silent, imposing statue. Exactly 1 hour later, the board members began to arrive. They were 5 men and 1 woman, all cut from the same cloth as Sterling. Old money, tailored suits, and expressions of bored entitlement. They entered the office, their chatter about golf and stock options dying as they saw Ma Washington sitting in the visitor's chair. They looked from her dusty overalls to Sterling's ashen face, their confusion quickly turning to suspicion. Sterling took a deep breath, puffing up his chest to project a control he didn't have. "Thank you for coming on such short notice," he began, his voice strained. "We have a Situation. This woman, he gestured dismissively at Ma, has come here today with a rather fanciful story. She has presented a document of questionable origin and is making outlandish claims against this bank and my family. He had their attention. He could see them siding with him, their fellow predator, against this strange outsider. He pressed on. She is attempting a hostile takeover based on what we can only assume is a century-old fraud. Our legal team is already preparing to... A sharp knock on the office door cut him off. Before Sterling could answer, the door opened. A tall, impeccably dressed black man in his late 40s walked in. He carried a sleek leather briefcase and exuded an aura of lethal competence. "Alistair Sterling?" the man asked, though it wasn't a question. "My apologies for the interruption. The traffic was terrible." He walked over to Ma Washington and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. He then turned to face the stunned board members, a predatory smile playing on his lips. "I'm Caleb Hayes. I'm Mrs. Washington's legal counsel. And my client," he said, his voice dropping, becoming as cold and sharp as a surgeon's scalpel, "has just instructed me to file for an immediate injunction to freeze all of Mr. Sterling's personal and corporate assets, pending an investigation into criminal fraud." The word fraud hung in the air like poison gas. All the blood drained from Alistair Sterling's face. His desperate attempt to control the narrative had been obliterated in a single sentence. The board members, who moments ago were looking at Ma with disdain, now turned their sharp, calculating eyes on Sterling. They were no longer allies, they were judges. "This is an outrage, slander," Sterling sputtered, pointing a shaking finger at Caleb Hayes. "You can't just walk in here and make these baseless accusations. You have no proof." Caleb Hayes didn't even flinch. He simply opened his briefcase on the corner of Sterling's desk and pulled out a thin file. "Don't I?" he asked calmly. He slid a single document across the polished wood surface. "This is a wire transfer confirmation from Sterling Financial to a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands, dated 3 months ago. The amount is $80 million. The authorization code is yours, Mr. Sterling. The shell corporation, Apex Global Holdings, is also yours. You've been using it to hide non-performing assets off the bank's official books to inflate your quarterly earnings." A collective gasp went through the board members. This wasn't a historical claim from 100 years ago. This was current. This was provable. This was jail time. An older board member, a man named Marcus Thorne, who had seen CEOs come and go, stepped forward. He picked up the document, his face grim. He knew Sterling's authorization code. He knew the signature. It was authentic. "Alistair," Thorne said, his voice cold and devoid of any previous warmth. "What is this?" "It's a forgery, a plant," Sterling insisted, his voice cracking. "They're working together to frame me." Caleb Hayes simply pulled another document from his file. "And this is the sworn affidavit from your former CFO, Mr. Davies, who resigned 2 months ago. He details the entire scheme. He was willing to provide it in exchange for immunity. We have everything, Alistair. The offshore accounts, the falsified loan documents, the internal emails, everything. That was the kill shot. The mention of Davies, a man they all knew had left under a cloud of suspicion, sealed Sterling's fate." The board members looked at each other. The silent, instantaneous verdict was passed. He was a liability. He had to be cut loose. Thorne dropped the wire transfer confirmation back on the desk as if it were contaminated. He turned his back on Sterling and addressed Ma Washington directly, his tone now one of cautious, pragmatic respect. "Mrs. Washington, it appears we have a great deal to discuss." Ma Washington, who had been watching the entire exchange with quiet intensity, finally stood up. She walked around the desk, her worn boots making no sound on the expensive rug. She ignored the board members for a moment, her eyes locked on the broken man who had tried to have her thrown out. "You judged me the second I walked through that door," she said, her voice soft, but carrying the weight of a century of injustice. "You saw my clothes? You saw the color of my skin, and you decided I was worth nothing. You thought you were the owner of this place, but you were just a caretaker, and a poor one at that." She then turned her attention to the board. "My grandfather built this bank on a foundation of trust and hard work. This man," she gestured to Sterling, "has turned it into a house of lies. That ends today. You will all cooperate with the audit. You will help us clean this house from top to bottom. Or you can join Mr. Sterling in the unemployment line, and we'll let the SEC sort out who else was complicit." The threat was clear. They had one chance to save themselves. Thorne gave a stiff, formal nod. "We understand. We will cooperate fully." Ma Washington nodded once, accepting their surrender. Then she looked at Alistair Sterling, who was slumped over his desk, a man utterly defeated. She pointed to the high-backed leather chair he was still occupying. The chair that had been the throne of his power. "Get out of my chair," she said. The command was absolute. It wasn't a request. It was a statement of fact. Alistair Sterling looked from Ma Washington's unblinking eyes to the faces of his board members. He saw no support there, no solidarity. He saw only cold, hard self-preservation. They had already abandoned him. Slowly, mechanically, he pushed himself up. The leather of the chair, which had always felt like a second skin, now felt alien and unwelcoming. He didn't look at anyone. He couldn't. He kept his eyes fixed on the abstract painting on the far wall as he gathered his phone and keys from the desk. His hands were numb. He was a ghost in his own life. He walked toward the door. As he passed Marcus Thorne, the man who had been his mentor, Thorne deliberately turned his head to examine a bookshelf. The cut was complete. Sterling reached the door where Frank stood, his expression unchanged. Frank simply held the door open for him. The two men exchanged a brief, silent look. In Frank's eyes, there was no pity, but there was no malice either. There was just the quiet professionalism of a man doing his job. Frank then followed him out, his new orders unspoken but perfectly clear. Ensure the former CEO leaves the premises. The heavy door clicked shut, leaving Ma Washington, Caleb Hayes, and the terrified board members in a profound silence. Ma walked around the massive desk and lowered herself into the CEO's chair. The opulent leather seemed to swallow her small frame, but her presence, her sheer force of will, filled it completely. She ran a calloused hand over the polished wood of the desk, feeling the grain. 100 years of history lay beneath her fingertips. She looked up at the board. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice calm and businesslike. "You and your colleagues will assemble in the main conference room in 30 minutes. Mr. Hayes will brief you on the immediate parameters of the forensic audit. There will be full transparency. Is that understood?" Thorne nodded quickly. "Yes, Mrs. Washington, absolutely." "Good," she said. "One more thing, effective immediately. All document destruction is suspended. Not a single piece of paper is to be shredded. Not a single digital file is to be deleted. Everything in this bank is now considered evidence in an ongoing investigation. Inform your department heads. Anyone who violates this order will face federal obstruction charges. Mr. Hayes will be very thorough." The board members practically tripped over each other in their haste to leave and comply. They scurried out of the office like rats fleeing a sinking ship, their arrogance replaced by a raw, primal fear. When they were gone, Ma gestured for Caleb to close the door. She then looked out the vast window at the city below. For a long time, she was silent. "What now, Joanna?" Caleb asked softly. "This is just the beginning. The legal battles could take years." "The fight is over, Caleb," she replied, not turning from the window. "The rest is just paperwork." She had waited her entire life for this moment, not for the power or the money, but for the justice. It felt heavier than she expected. She thought of her grandfather, Jedediah, a man she only knew from faded photographs and fiercely proud stories. He had built a legacy on a handshake with a man who betrayed him. Today, that debt was finally paid. She turned from the window, her expression set. The weight was there, but it was a burden she was strong enough to carry. My grandfather didn't build this place to make a few rich men richer. He built it to give people a chance. People like him. People like me. Her eyes, which had been so hard and unforgiving, now held a new light. It was the light of a builder, not a destroyer. Call the kitchen. Tell them to send up some sandwiches, and then get Peterson, that nervous young manager from the lobby, on the phone. I think it's time we gave someone a promotion. 20 minutes later, a timid knock echoed through the CEO's office. "Come in," Ma Washington called out. The door opened, and Peterson entered, looking even more terrified than when he was serving coffee. He clutched his hands together, his knuckles white. He was certain he was about to be fired for his association with Sterling. "Mr. Peterson," Ma said, her tone even, "please, have a seat." He sat stiffly on the edge of the chair she indicated, looking like a man about to receive a death sentence. Ma leaned back in her new chair, studying him for a long moment. "You followed Mr. Sterling's orders this morning," she stated, "but you hesitated. You looked at me and you hesitated. Why?" Peterson swallowed hard. I don't know, ma'am. He was wrong. The way he spoke to you, it was cruel. It wasn't right." He said it simply, a plain truth. He expected no reward for it. "Decency," Ma said, as if identifying a rare mineral. "It's a valuable commodity in a place like this, and it's been in short supply." She leaned forward, her hands flat on the desk. "Mr. Sterling's position is vacant, but I'm not a CEO, I'm a rancher. I know how to mend fences, and this bank has a lot of broken fences with the community it's supposed to serve. I'm creating a new position, Vice President of Community Relations and Ethical Oversight. Your job will be to be my eyes and ears on the ground floor, to find the rot Sterling left behind, and to start making things right. The job is yours, if you want it." Peterson stared at her, dumbfounded. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He went from expecting to be fired to being offered a vice presidency in the span of 30 seconds. Tears welled in his eyes. "Yes," he finally managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. Yes. Good," Ma said, her expression softening for the first time. "Don't thank me. Just do the job right. Now go. You have a lot of work to do." As Peterson left, a man with a new purpose, Caleb Hayes returned from the conference room, his face dark. "It's worse than we thought, Joanna." He spread a new set of files across the desk. Sterling wasn't just hiding losses. He was running a predatory lending scheme through a subsidiary, targeting low-income communities, the same kind of people we come from. He was packaging their bad debt, getting it AAA rated through a corrupt agency, and selling it to pension funds. He wasn't just stealing from the bank. He was robbing the poor to pay the rich. The last vestiges of softness left Ma's face, replaced by a cold, hard fury. This wasn't just about her family's legacy anymore. This was about countless families Sterling had ruined. "Find it all, Caleb," she whispered. "Every dollar." The work went late into the night. The city lights twinkled outside as they sifted through a mountain of digital and paper records. Around midnight, Ma's phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. She answered, putting it on speaker. "Mrs. Washington," a familiar voice said. It was Frank, the security guard. "I'm here, Frank," she replied. "I thought you should know," he said, his voice low. "Mr. Sterling just left his apartment. He didn't take his usual car. He took a commercial van from the building service exit. I followed him. He's heading out of the city towards an industrial park in New Jersey." Frank paused. "The park houses a lot of off-site document storage facilities, secure ones." Caleb looked at Ma, his eyes wide. "He's going to destroy the evidence, the original paper trails for the lending scheme. We have to stop him." Ma Washington held up a hand, silencing him. A slow, cold smile spread across her face. It was the smile of a hunter who had just seen her prey step into a perfectly laid trap. "No," she said into the phone. "Frank, you stay back. Don't let him see you. Just tell me where he goes. Let him get inside." "Joanna, what are you doing?" Caleb asked, aghast. "He'll shred everything." Son, Ma said, turning her chilling smile to him, he can't shred what's already been replaced. The CFO gave you copies, right? But the originals? They're the last bit of rope he has, and he's about to use it to hang himself. She picked up the phone. Caleb, get the district attorney on the line. Tell him we're about to deliver his case to him on a silver platter. The industrial park was a ghost town, under the cold glow of sodium vapor lamps. Alistair Sterling, dressed in dark clothes, his face a mask of sweat and paranoia, pulled the unmarked van up to a monolithic concrete building. Iron Mountain Storage, the sign read. It was where the darkest secrets of Wall Street went to be buried. He used a keycard and a biometric scanner, his hand trembling as he pressed it against the glass. He was a man running on pure adrenaline. His career was over, his name was Mud, but he could still avoid prison. He just needed to destroy the paper trail. The digital records could be explained away, dismissed as hacks or forgeries. But the original signed documents, those were the daggers aimed at his heart. Inside, the air was cold and sterile. He navigated the maze of identical corridors until he reached Vault 734. Another set of codes, another scan, and the heavy steel door hissed open. He flicked on the lights. There they were. Dozens of bankers' boxes, all labeled with the name of his shell corporation, Apex Global Holdings. He worked with frantic energy, dragging the heavy boxes to the industrial shredder at the far end of the vault. The machine roared to life, a hungry beast. He began feeding it files, handfuls at a time. The loan applications of people he'd ruined, the falsified credit ratings, the internal memos detailing the conspiracy. All of it turned into confetti. A wild, desperate grin spread across his face. He was winning. He was erasing it all. The noise was deafening, a symphony of destruction that drowned out the sound of his own panicked breathing. He was on the last box, his hands covered in paper dust, when the world changed. The deafening roar of the shredder was suddenly cut off by a heavy, metallic clang. The main lights went out, plunging him into darkness before emergency strobes kicked in, bathing the vault in a hellish red pulse. The vault door had sealed shut. He was trapped. Sterling screamed, pounding on the thick steel door. "Hello? Is anyone there? There's been a mistake." A speaker crackled to life from the ceiling. "There's no mistake, son." It was her voice, Ma Washington's, cold, calm, and utterly in control. Sterling froze, his blood turning to ice. The main lights flickered back on. On a monitor mounted high on the wall, an image appeared. It was a live feed from his old office. Ma Washington was sitting in his chair, Caleb Hayes standing behind her. She held up a single thick file. "We figured you might get desperate," she said, her voice echoing in the sterile vault. "So we took some precautions. Mr. Davies was very helpful. A week ago, my people came here and swapped out every single file in this vault. What you've been shredding for the past hour, it's blank paper, reams of it." Sterling stared at the monitor, his mouth agape in horror. He looked at the box in his hands, pulled out a sheet, and saw that it was indeed blank. It was all a setup. "The real files," Ma continued, her voice devoid of all emotion, "are already in the possession of the district attorney. But we needed one more thing. We needed to prove intent, and you just gave it to us." She nodded to someone off-screen. "You're on camera, Mr. Sterling. Breaking into a secure facility after hours to destroy what you believe to be evidence in a federal investigation. I believe they call that obstruction of justice." The faint, distant wail of sirens began to grow louder. Sterling collapsed to his knees amidst the blizzard of shredded, worthless paper. The sound grew closer, a harbinger of his final, complete ruin. The vault door began to hiss open, revealing not freedom, but the grim faces of federal agents. Ma Washington's voice came over the speaker one last time, a final damning verdict. "The books always balance, Alistair, one way or another." The monitor went dark. The fall of Alistair Sterling was swift and brutal. News channels ran the story on a loop. The disgraced CEO, once a titan of industry, being led from a New Jersey storage facility in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his face a mask of hollow shock. The charges were overwhelming: securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and now obstruction of justice. The evidence was irrefutable. The testimony from his own CFO, coupled with the video of him attempting to destroy the fake evidence, sealed his fate. He was denied bail. His assets were frozen. The Sterling name, once a symbol of Wall Street power, was now synonymous with greed and corruption. 6 months later, the Sterling Financial Tower looked different. The cold brass letters spelling out Sterling had been taken down. In their place, new letters were being installed. Washington Jedediah Bank. The name was a correction of history, a public declaration of the truth. Inside, the atmosphere had changed. The frantic, predatory energy was gone, replaced by a quiet, steady sense of purpose. Ma Washington had no interest in being a permanent CEO. She had installed a new board, led by a team of ethical, experienced financial professionals. Peterson, now a respected vice president, was her trusted lieutenant, spearheading a new initiative to fund small businesses and community projects in underserved neighborhoods, the very same neighborhoods Sterling had preyed upon. Frank, the security guard, was now the head of the entire security division, his quiet integrity finally rewarded. Ma Washington still wore her practical clothes, though she had swapped the dusty overalls for a simple but well-made pantsuit. She spent her days not in board meetings about derivatives, but in meetings with community leaders, listening to their needs. She established the Jedediah Washington Foundation, funded by a significant portion of the trust's profits, to provide scholarships and grants for a new generation of entrepreneurs. Her final act of vengeance against Alistair Sterling was not born of hate, but of a colder, more profound justice. During his sentencing, where he received 25 years in a federal penitentiary, it was revealed that his family's remaining untainted assets had been all but wiped out by legal fees. His lavish penthouse apartment was sold to pay his debts. The buyer was an anonymous trust. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, Ma Washington stood in the lobby of a newly opened community center in the Bronx, funded by her foundation. She watched as children learned to code on new computers and young adults received financial literacy training. On the wall was a large framed portrait. It wasn't of her. It was a restored photograph of her grandfather, Jedediah Washington, his eyes proud and full of vision. Her phone rang. It was Caleb. "It's done, Joanna," he said. "The deed to Sterling's old penthouse is finalized. The trust is turning it into transitional housing for families who lost their homes to his predatory loans." And a small, genuine smile touched Ma's lips. The circle was complete. The man who had tried to throw her onto the street now had his home turned into a shelter for his victims. The books were finally and perfectly balanced. This story shows that true power isn't about the money you have, but the character you show. Justice may take time, but it always arrives. If you were moved by Ma Washington's story, prove it by commenting, "I watched until the end," and click on the next incredible story of justice we have waiting for you on the screen. 2 years later, the Alabama sun beat down on a sprawling ranch, the air thick with the smell of pine and rich soil. Joanna Ma Washington, now 77, sat on her porch in a worn rocking chair, a glass of iced tea sweating in her hand. She wore the same comfortable overalls she always had. The dust on her boots was from her own land now, not from a long journey for justice. She had returned home. After overseeing the complete restructuring of the Washington Jedediah Bank and ensuring its new leadership was firmly in place, she had handed the reins to a trusted board. She remained the majority shareholder and the guiding conscience of the institution, but her work in New York was done. She received a detailed report from Peterson every Friday. A report that spoke not just of profit margins, but of homes saved from foreclosure. Businesses started with microloans and communities being rebuilt. The bank was more profitable than ever, but its wealth was now built on a foundation of integrity, not deceit. Sometimes, a news article would mention Alistair Sterling. He was inmate number 7340654 at a medium-security federal prison. His appeals had failed. His name was a footnote in financial history, a cautionary tale whispered to junior analysts. No one visited him. The world he had commanded had forgotten him completely, a ghost haunted by the memory of a life he had stolen and lost. The screen door creaked open, and a young woman in her early 20s stepped out onto the porch, carrying a laptop. It was Maya, Ma's granddaughter, the one she had called about Bluebell the horse. Maya was home from college, where she was studying finance and corporate law, funded by the Jedediah Washington Scholarship. "Grandma," Maya said, pulling up a chair. "Peterson sent the weekly numbers. The community investment fund is up another 12%. Ma nodded, taking a slow sip of her tea. "Good. Tell him to keep his eye on that housing project in Detroit. Make sure the contracts go to local builders." Maya smiled, typing a note. "Already did." She looked up from the screen, her eyes full of admiration. "You know, in my ethics class, we studied what you did. They call it the Washington Doctrine now." Ma let out a soft chuckle. "That's a fancy name for doing the right thing." She looked out over the fields her grandfather had dreamed of, the land his hard-earned money had helped secure, generation after generation. The fight had been long, the weight of a century heavy on her shoulders. But here, on her porch, with her family safe and her legacy honored, she felt light. She hadn't just reclaimed a fortune, she had reclaimed a name. She had taken the power that was stolen from her family and used it not to crush, but to build. The vengeance was in the justice, but the victory was in the quiet peace of this sunset, a promise finally fully kept. What an incredible story of patience, power, and poetic justice. It serves as a stark reminder that the world is full of people like Alistair Sterling, individuals who measure a person's worth by the clothes on their back or the assumptions in their own mind. They see a simple appearance and assume a simple person. But this story also proves that the world has Joanna Ma Washingtons, people whose strength is forged in silence, whose wisdom is earned through hardship, and whose sense of justice is as unshakable as a mountain. Sterling believed he was a king, ruling from a castle of glass and steel. He never once stopped to consider that the very foundations of his kingdom were built by a man his family had tried to erase from history. Ma Washington didn't just come to New York to claim her inheritance. She came to correct the record. She arrived to restore a legacy. Her ultimate act of vengeance wasn't simply about destroying one arrogant man. It was about rebuilding something better and more just in its place. She tore down a corrupt institution not with anger or violence, but with the simple, undeniable, and overwhelming power of the truth. This story is for every single person who has ever been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. It's a testament to the idea that true strength isn't loud and boastful. It's quiet, patient, and prepared. It's the strength of knowing your own value, even when no one else can see it. Ma Washington carried the weight of a 100-year-old promise, and when the time came, she did not falter. We are dedicated to bringing you these powerful stories, narratives that remind us that integrity is always more powerful than greed, and that character is the only currency that truly matters in the end. We believe these stories are more than just entertainment. They are essential reminders of the world we should all strive to build. If you agree, if you felt a sense of triumph when Ma Washington took back what was rightfully hers, then show your support. Hit that like button right now so that the algorithm shows this powerful story to more people who need to see it. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on, because you will not want to miss the incredible story we have coming for you next. And finally, to prove you are part of the community that values these lessons of dignity and justice, go down to the comments section right now and type, "I watched until the end." Let us know you were here for the entire journey. Thank you for your time and your support. The journey for justice is never truly over. There is another incredible story of a villain getting exactly what they deserve waiting for you. It's on your screen right now. Don't wait. Click on it, and we will see you there.